Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I'm your teacher Naveed Anjum Naveed with my grammar lessons, and today I brought phrase for you. So let's begin. So we'll start with the definition. A phrase is a group of words which, well, instead of writing the definition as a single sentence, I've divided it into different parts in order to highlight and in order to make prominent different aspects of the definition. We need to be very, very careful and focused about those points in the definition of phrase. So, number one, a phrase is a group of words. It's not a single word, which makes some sense, but that sense is incomplete. Well, a sentence is also a group of words, but the difference is that in a sentence, the sense is complete. In a phrase, it's incomplete. Number two, it's not a combination of subject and verb. Whenever there is a combination of subject and verb in a group of words, it can be a sentence or a clause. If it's not a complete sentence, then it's a clause. A clause is defined as a part of a sentence with an SV combination. But in a phrase, the combination of subject and verb is not there. Of course, it's possible for the subject of a sentence to be a part of a phrase. But in that case, the verb of that sentence will not be a part of the same phrase. Similarly, the verb in a sentence can be a part of a phrase. But in that case, the subject of the same sentence will not be a part of the same phrase. So it's impossible for the subject and verb of a sentence or that of a clause to be a part of the same phrase. Within a single phrase, it's possible for you to have the subject of the sentence or that or the verb of that sentence, but both of them don't appear in the same phrase. And the last point, it functions as a single part of speech, as a group of words, as a unit of meaning. It has got its own grammatical role or function in the sentence, and that function, that grammatical function or role, is that of a single part of speech. We'll be talking about that later, because phrases are actually classified in two different ways, on the basis of their composition and on the basis of their function in a sentence. So in that functional classification, we'll be learning about the function of a phrase in a sentence. So let's have a quick recap of this definition, that a phrase is a group of words which, number one, makes incomplete sense. Number two, it's not an SV combination. And number three, its grammatical role or function is that of a single part of speech. So our phrases have different types. We classify them according to their composition and usage. Usage or grammatical role or function, it's the same thing. So instead of quoting examples over here on this slide, let's directly move on to the classification, and within that classification, we'll be coming across a lot of examples of phrase. The first one is noun phrase. As the name suggests, there must be a noun in it. It consists of a noun and its modifiers. There are 5 different types of noun modifiers, and there is a separate video lesson on this is not a separate video lesson. I remember it's a part of my lecture on adjectives. So if you want to know what are 5 different types of noun modifiers, go back to that video lesson on adjective and revise it, and you'll understand the concept of noun phrase in a better way. You should know what different types of noun modifiers are there. Simply to name them, they are adjectives, articles, possessive case of noun or pronoun, and then there is participle. We have just learned participles, and participle is ing form or third form of the verb, behaving like an adjective in a sentence. And the fifth one is noun itself. Sometimes nouns, even when they're not in possessive case, they start modifying other nouns. So a noun phrase consists of at least one noun and any of the 5 different types of noun modifiers. They are mostly, articles, possessive case of noun, pronoun, or adjectives. Let's take a look at examples. The whole world is facing the worst financial crisis. Well, the whole world is a noun phrase. World is noun here, whole is adjective, and the is article, and both of them are noun modifiers, and this phrase consists of noun world and two modifiers the and whole. This is how noun phrases are composed. The worst financial crisis. Crisis is your noun, and the worst financial are all these three words are noun modifiers. So there are so many noun phrases, so common. When I say man, it's a noun, but when I say a man, it becomes a noun phrase. Car is a noun, but the car is a noun phrase. So a green tree is a noun phrase. My house is a noun phrase. There are so many examples. Let's have more examples. My stupid friend has eaten all fruit cakes. My stupid friend. Friend is noun, stupid is adjective. My is a possessive case of personal pronoun. They are noun modifiers. So my and stupid both are noun modifiers, and friend is the noun that they're modifying. So it's noun phrase. All fruit cakes. So you can take fruit cake as a compound noun because that's taken as a single unit of meaning. Fruit cake is a particular type of cake, so we'll take it as a single unit of meaning. Fruit cake, compound noun consisting of two words, and all is noun modifier or adjective of quantity or adjective of number. So nevertheless, my stupid friend and all fruit cakes are noun. So that's all about noun phrase. Our next type is verb phrase. A verb phrase must have at least a verb in it, the name suggests. So it consists of a main verb and one or more helping verbs. Let's have examples. He has been troubling me since evening. Has been troubling. A combination of one main verb and two helping verbs. Hasn't been are helping verbs. Troubling is main verb. So has been troubling is verb phrase. The next example, I'm listening to music. Am and listening, a combination of one helping verb and one main verb, that is verb phrase. It's very simple. Next is prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase consists of a preposition and its object, or sometimes there are more than one object, and most of the times there are a couple of modifiers, one or more modifiers with the object of preposition, and those modifiers of the object of preposition are a part of the prepositional phrase. Let's take a look at a few examples. Hina moved to an apartment. To is preposition, apartment is the object of preposition, and an is the modifier of the object of preposition. Across the street. Across is preposition, street is the object of preposition, and the is the modifier of the object of preposition, across. And from her old one. Over here, one is, it has been used for apartment, so it's pronoun. From is preposition, one is the object of preposition, her and old both are modifiers of one. So from her old one, across the street, to an apartment, from India, in Pakistan, towards the jungle, all these are prepositional phrases. I'm tired of my illness. Of preposition, illness object of preposition. So of my illness, prepositional phrase. Well, noun phrase, verb phrase, and prepositional phrase are the structural or compositional types of preposition. In this type of classification, we don't look at the grammatical role or function of the phrase within a sentence. We simply look at which words it consists of, and we give it its name. But the types of phrases that we are going to learn now are based on their grammatical role or function in sentences, and in order to identify them, we'll have to look at their relationship with the other parts of the sentence. The first one is adjective phrase. Ultimately, it will do the work of an adjective. It will describe a noun. It will be behaving like an adjective. It will be doing the work of a noun modifier. Let's take a look at examples. The representative from Lahore voted against Mr. Sarfaraz. The representative voted against Mr. Sarfaraz. That was the basic sentence. Which representative? From Lahore. So from Lahore is modifying. It's telling us something more about the representative, and that is a noun, and as a noun modifier it becomes an adjective phrase. Adjective phrases are mostly prepositional phrases in their structure. They are placed immediately after nouns and they describe those nouns. It's very simple. So from Lahore tells us more about the representative. That's why we're calling it adjective phrase. Otherwise, it's a prepositional phrase from structural point of view. From is preposition and Lahore is object of preposition. One of my old colleagues has gone abroad. One has gone abroad. That is the basic sentence. Of my old colleagues as a prepositional phrase. Of preposition, colleague, object of preposition. That is its structural classification. Now functional classification. It's describing one. It's because of this phrase that we come to know what this one means. So remember this structure once and for all. Wherever there is one of the, one is pronoun, and the phrase starting with of is an adjective phrase modifying one. One itself is pronoun here because one means colleague. It has been used in place of colleague. So it's a pronoun, and adjectives can modify pronouns just like nouns. Similarly, other types of noun modifiers can also modify pronouns along with nouns. So whenever there is this typical composition, one is pronoun and the phrase starting with of is prepositional phrase in its structure and adjective phrase in its function. Take a look at the next example. The girl in white suit put her hand in my pocket. The girl put her hand in my pocket. Well, seems to be a thief. Maybe she was feeling cold and she tried to put her hand in her own pocket and by mistake it went into my pocket, or maybe he was trying to steal my purse. I don't know. Well, but the question is, which girl put her hand in my pocket? The answer is the girl in white suit. So in white suit describes, explains girl, and girl is a noun. And it's telling us more about that noun, and this is the job of an adjective. This is why we're calling it an adjective phrase. Prepositional phrase in its structure and adjective phrase in its function. Well, the money in my pocket is not enough to buy a car. The money is not enough to buy a car. Well, in my pocket describes what? Money. Which money is not enough to buy a car? The money in my pocket. So from structural point of view, it's prepositional phrase. From functional point of view, it's adjective phrase modifying noun money. But there is in my pocket the same phrase in the previous sentence also. But in sentence number 3, it's got a different grammatical role or function. Let's take a look at the third sentence once again. The girl in white suit put her hand in my pocket. In sentence number 3, in my pocket is not describing the previous noun. It's not telling us which hand the girl put in my pocket. No, it has got nothing to do with the hand. It's not explaining that previous noun. What is its function there in this third sentence? Where did the girl put her hand? Where was the action of putting performed? In my pocket. It's indicating the place of the action in sentence number 3. The girl, which girl? In white suit. So in white suit describes girl, becomes an adjective phrase. Put her hand. Put is verb. Hand is the object of that verb. In my pocket. Does it answer the question which hand? No. Does it answer the question where did the girl put her hand? Yes. So it answers the where question about the verb of the sentence. Therefore, it's doing the work of an adverb of place. The phrase in my pocket is the same in both these sentences, but it's playing different roles. In the last sentence, second example, the money in my pocket is not enough to buy a car. Number 1, it's not indicating the place of action. Actually, to buy is infinitive. It's not the verb of the sentence. Your sentence is SVC. Money is subject, is linking verb, and the rest is subjective complement. We have already learned that to plus first form of the verb does not function as a verb in the sentence. And in my pocket is not indicating the place of any action over here. It is explaining, it's adding something to the meaning of money. If I ask you which money is not enough to buy a car, your answer will be in my pocket. But if I ask you which hand the girl put in my pocket does not answer this question. So there is a difference between the relationship of this prepositional phrase in my pocket with the previous nouns. In sentence number 4, it is clearly explaining or describing the noun money. In sentence number 3, it's indicating the place of the action. So the structural type is the same. In my pocket, prepositional phrase. But functional classification is very different, when you compare both these sentences. In sentence number 3, the girl in white suit put her hand in my pocket. In my pocket is doing the work of an adverb of place by indicating the place of the action. In sentence number 4, the money in my pocket is not enough to buy a car. In my pocket is telling us which money. So money is noun and it's a noun modifier over here. Placement of a phrase can help you a little bit in identifying its possible grammatical role or function, but analyzing the whole sentence and figuring out the correct relationship of the phrase with the rest of the sentence is crucial for this functional classification of phrases. So I hope I've made the difference between in my pocket in sentence number 3 and sentence number 4 clear. Next is adverb phrase. We've already introduced it on the previous slide. It does the work of an adverb. And what is the role of an adverb in a sentence? It modifies verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. So let's have examples. She dropped her bag from the tower. So answers the where question about the verb in this sentence. Where did this action of dropping take place? From the tower. So it functions, it works, it behaves like an adverb of place. So adverb phrase. And a verb modifier. It tells us something about the action or the verb in the sentence. So a modifier of a verb by indicating place of the action. She is happy with her new friends. She subject is linking verb. Happy complement and happy as a part of speech is adjective modifying she. Happy, happier, happiest. Adjectives have got comparative and superlative degrees. We know that. And happy is an adjective of quality, describes the quality of a noun. With her new friends modifies happy by telling us the reason of her being happy. Why is she happy or how is she happy? Happy with her new friends. And as a modifier of an adjective, it's adverb phrase. We are calling with her new friends an adverb phrase because it's modifying an adjective. I am very glad at your success. At your success is a verb, an adverb phrase because it's modifying adjective glad. I am very glad. Glad is adjective. And what is the reason of my being glad? At your success. So at your success, adverb phrase, modifier of an adjective. I have quoted another example. Well, he came early in the morning. Well, he is the subject, came is the verb. Early, adverb of time, indicating the time of came. And in the morning is further explaining early. And in this way, it is the modifier of an other adverb, and we'll call it adverb phrase. They went to the market in the morning. There are two adverb phrases. To the market indicates the place of the action went, and in the morning indicates the time of the action went. So we have studied adverbs, and we know there are different types of adverbs, and adverbs can modify verbs in different ways by indicating their time and place and manner and all that. So same is the case with adverb phrases. They also modify verbs, adjectives, or other adverbs. But the largest number of adverb phrases, just like adverbs themselves, are verb modifiers. They are also mostly prepositional phrases in their structure, and they do the work of adverbs as far as their function in the sentences is concerned. And now a positive phrase. And appositive is a noun or pronoun that modifies or explains a nearby noun or pronoun. And an appositive phrase is made up of an appositive and its modifiers. That's the technical definition. To make it simple, let me make it very, very simple for you. An appositive phrase is basically, from the point of view of its structure or composition, it is a noun phrase consisting of a noun and its modifiers. And that noun phrase is placed right in front of another noun and it explains it. Whenever both these conditions are there, call it an appositive phrase. So then what's the difference between an appositive phrase and an adjective phrase? An adjective phrase is not a noun phrase in its structure or composition. It's mostly a prepositional phrase defining or explaining or describing a noun. That is the difference between an appositive phrase and an adjective phrase. An adjective phrase is mostly a prepositional phrase in its composition or structure, and it explains a noun. And an appositive phrase is a noun phrase in its structure or composition, and it's placed in front of a noun and it explains it, and we call it an appositive phrase. Let's have examples and the concept will be clear. He wants me to reach metro. The departmental store. The departmental store in its composition is a noun phrase. It consists of a noun, store, and there are two modifiers, article and adjective, the and departmental, and it's placed in front of another noun, and that noun is metro, and it is telling us what that noun metro is. It is the departmental store. So functionally it's explaining a noun, and structurally it's a noun phrase, so we'll call it an appositive phrase. Another example: Sarah, the fat girl, is going to marry your uncle. Sarah is going to marry your uncle is the basic sentence, and the fat girl, a noun phrase. The article, fat adjective, and girl noun. A noun and its modifiers. It's explaining what? It's explaining Sarah. Who is this? The fat girl? It's Sarah. So a noun phrase placed in front of a noun explaining it, it's an appositive phrase. So try to remember the difference between adjective phrases and appositive phrases. Appositive phrases are not difficult, they are easy. And now we move on to the third group or third type of phrases. These phrases are made out of verbal structures, infinitive, gerund, or participle. Whenever a word is dependent on any one of these verbal structures, infinitive, gerund, or participle, as an object or as a modifier, they become a phrase. Let's start. The first one is participle phrase. A participle phrase is introduced by a participle followed by one or more modifiers or objects. These two types of words are attached with these verbal structures because these verbal structures are basically made up of verbs. So they retain some characteristics of verbs. It is a quality or characteristic of a verb to have an object. And whenever an infinitive, gerund, or participle is made up of a transitive verb, it has its object with it. And you include the object and it becomes a phrase. Similarly, it's a characteristic of verbs to be modified by adverbs. And whenever an adverb is attached with an infinitive, gerund, or participle, it becomes a modifying that infinitive, gerund, or participle, it becomes a phrase. So a participle phrase always functions as an adjective ultimately because the head word in this phrase is participle, and noun modification is the basic function of participle. Let's take a look at the examples. He built a house hidden completely by the branches. It's a very simple sentence. He built a house. The major part of the sentence, the basic idea, completes here. He built house, subject, verb, object. Hidden, this is the third form of hide. But hidden is not the verb in this subject because built is the verb. And we have already said that whenever the third form or the ing form of the verb is used in a sentence as a verb, they must have some helping verbs with them. So I'm not saying that he has hidden or it was hidden. In such scenarios, it would be a verb. Over here, it's not. And whenever we are dealing with a third form of the verb in such cases where there is no helping verb around, where it's clear that it's not verb, then the only other option is participle, because the third form of the verb, the past participle form of the verb, does not function as a noun. So if it's participle hidden, then which noun does it modify? What was hidden completely? It was the house. So hidden completely is modifying house. In these two words, hidden is the third form of the verb. We'll call it participle adjective or participle as modifier of house. What's completely doing here? Completely is modifying hidden. Completely is adverb. So this is how a participle phrase is formed. We have got a participle and we have got a modifier of that participle, and that makes it a participle phrase. The next example, the Chenab flowing calmly on that December morning became a source of inspiration for the poet. The Chenab became a source of inspiration for the poet. That is your main clause of the sentence. That is your basic sentence. Flowing calmly. What was flowing calmly? The Chenab. But we are not saying that the Chenab is flowing or the Chenab was flowing. That would have made it a verb. In this particular context, it's not the verb of this sentence. The Chenab, we're not saying that the Chenab was flowing. We're saying that the Chenab became. The Chenab is the subject, and what is the verb attached with that subject? That's became. Flowing is, it has got a different job over here. It's modifying Chenab. It cannot be gerund because in this position, almost in the start of the sentence, it could be the subject of the sentence. Then we would have called it a gerund. But the subject is the Chenab. And what are the rules of nouns in a sentence? If ing form of the verb plays any of those roles, we call it a gerund. It cannot be the subject because the Chenab is the subject. It cannot be the object of a verb because our verb is become, and that's a linking verb. It does not have its objects. And it cannot be the object of a verb also because there is no, it cannot be the object of a preposition also because there is no preposition before it. So all the basic rules of nouns, it's not playing. It's not the subject is the Chenab. It's not the object of a verb. The verb does not have an object at all. It's not the object of a preposition because there is no preposition before it. So all the possibilities of making it a gerund are eliminated. It's not a verb because there are no helping verbs before it. तो ये वर्ब भी नहीं है, gerund भी नहीं है, तो फिर क्या हुआ? Participle हुआ. And which noun is it explaining as a participle? Participle के लिए भी तो noun modifier होना जरूरी है. It's explaining or describing Chenab. It is indicating or showing a quality of Chenab, that it was flowing calmly. Flowing is modifying Chenab and calmly is modifying flowing as an adverb, calmly as an adverb. So that makes it a participle phrase. Flowing is participle because it is the modifier of a noun, and flowing calmly is a participle phrase because it is a combination of a participle and its modifier. Next example. I met a strange man selling diamonds. I met man, subject, verb, object. What kind of man? Selling diamonds. Selling is not verb. There are no helping verbs before it. And the subject of the sentence is I, and I was not selling anything. It was the man who was selling. So selling has got something to do with man, not with I. One thing. There are no helping verbs before it. Another thing. These things prove it a non-verb. It's not a verb here. So what is it? Could it be a gerund? Let's approach it from all possible angles. As a gerund, it must play the role of a noun. What are the roles of noun in sentences? Subject. It's not the subject because I is the subject. Object of verb. Verb is met. And I met man. So object of verb it's not because man is the object of a verb. It cannot be the object of a preposition either because there is no preposition over here. So all the possibilities of selling functioning as a noun are eliminated. कोई ऐसी पॉसिबिलिटी है ही नहीं कि ये नाउन का रोल प्ले कर रहा हो. ना ये सब्जेक्ट है, ना ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ वर्ब है, ना ऑब्जेक्ट ऑफ प्रेपोजिशन है. ना ही इस सेंटेंस में कोई कॉम्प्लीमेंट का रोल प्ले हो रहा है, क्योंकि आपका वर्ब ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब है, मेन ट्रांजिटिव वर्ब है। तो फिर जो पॉसिबिलिटी रह गई, और ये वर्ब भी नहीं है क्योंकि इससे पहले हेल्पिंग वर्ब्स भी नहीं है। एंड आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट आई एम सेलिंग और आई वाज सेलिंग, इस तरह के सेंटेंसेस में सेलिंग वर्ब होता है। तो अगर ये जेरेंट भी नहीं है, वर्ब भी नहीं है, तो फिर ये इट्स पार्टिसिपल। And it must be adding something to the meaning of a noun. It must be describing, explaining a noun, and that noun is man. I met a strange man selling. Selling is modifying man. What are diamonds? Diamonds were being sold. The action of selling was being performed on diamonds. So selling itself is not the verb of the sentence, but it has got its own object because it has been made out of a transitive verb, and that will make selling diamonds a participle phrase because it consists of a participle and its object. So whenever there is a participle, I mean third form or ing form of the verb functioning as a noun modifier, and there is either a modifier of some kind with it or an object, that combination makes a participle phrase. And next is gerund phrase. Just like a participle phrase, whenever a gerund has got something along with it, like an object or a modifier of some kind, it makes a gerund phrase. A gerund phrase consists of a gerund and its modifiers, etc., or complements, object, etc. A gerund phrase always functions as a noun because a gerund functions as a noun. So let's take a look at the examples. Smoking heavily can be dangerous for health. What can be dangerous for health? Smoking. Can be as a verb phrase functioning as a linking verb, has got smoking as the subject. Smoking is the subject, can be linking verb, dangerous complement SVC sentence. Heavily is adverb and it's modifying smoking. Because smoking is functioning as the subject of the sentence, we'll call it gerund. Present participle form of the verb functioning as a noun is called gerund. And this gerund has got a modifier with it, and this combination, smoking heavily, becomes a gerund phrase. I don't like reading novels. I subject, like verb, reading object. Why? What do I not like? It's reading. Reading what? Magazines. So the action of reading is being performed on magazines, not the action of liking or disliking. So reading is a gerund because it is a present participle form of the verb functioning as the object of verb like. But at the same time, it has got its own object, magazines. We've already explained it, that gerunds or participles or even infinitives, whenever they are made from transitive verbs, they will have their objects with them. And in this particular sentence, magazines is the object of reading, and reading itself is the object of like, because what do I not like? I don't like reading. Reading what? Magazines. So gerund plus the object of gerund, that makes a gerund phrase. Reading is gerund, magazines is object of gerund, it becomes a gerund phrase. And the last one is infinitive phrase. The rules are exactly the same. So let's go directly to the examples. To smoke heavily can be dangerous for health. To smoke can be dangerous. Subject, linking verb, complement. When to smoke is, whether it is subject or object or whatever, we are not concerned with the role of an infinitive because infinitives are not identified on the basis of their roles or functions. So forget about the function or role of infinitive. Just look at to plus first form of the verb. Whenever it's there, it's an infinitive. And this infinitive, to smoke, is being modified by adverb heavily, and that makes it an infinitive phrase. I like to wake up early. To wake up, infinitive, early, modifies to wake up, adverb of time. So a combination of infinitive and its modifier, so it becomes infinitive phrase. Maria finally had a job to challenge her abilities. To challenge is infinitive. Abilities is the object of challenge over here. It's not modifier. To challenge what? Abilities. the action of challenging was being performed on abilities. So, and it's plural of ability, it's a noun, and it's the object of challenge. Therefore, to challenge her abilities is infinitive phrase, infinitive and its object. So that was all about phrases, and now it's, yes, this activity consists of 2 pages, page 1 and page 2. There are 10 MCQs. Phrases in these 10 MCQs have been underlined. You'll read the sentences carefully and take your time, and approach these phrases from all possible angles before making a choice. And pause the video here, first on page number 1 and then on page number 2. Yes, I'm mishandling it today. Well, page number 2 from number 6 to 10. Pause the video here, stop over here for a little while, and attempt all the questions, and then you can match your answers with the answer key. I'll now move on to the answer key. That short glimpse of answer key was not very helpful, I believe. So I'm giving you some time to pause this video on page number 2 of the activity and take your time and attempt all the MCQs. And here we go towards the first page of the answer key. Well, Kaka, the famous Punjabi singer, has released a new song. The famous Punjabi, all these are noun modifiers. The is article, famous is adjective, Punjabi is adjective, singer is noun. So there could be 2 possible options, either a noun phrase or an appositive phrase, because Kaka is noun and this phrase is describing or explaining Kaka, and the option of noun phrase is not there, so appositive phrase. She is trying to bake a cake. To bake is infinitive, cake is the object of bake, so very clear and simple infinitive phrase. Number 3, Kaka, the famous Punjabi singer, has released a new song. A, new are noun modifiers, and song is the noun. These 2 modifiers are modifying, so it's a combination of noun and its modifiers, and there is only one option possible over here, and that's noun phrase, because it's not placed in front of a noun to explain it. So it cannot be an appositive phrase. Remember that every noun phrase is not an appositive phrase. It must be placed in front of a noun to explain it. So only one option was there possible, and that we have taken, that is noun phrase. She took out a gun from her bag. From her bag is a prepositional phrase, but the option of prepositional phrase is not there. We'll have to look at its function now. She took out a gun from her bag and shot her husband. Where from did she take out a gun? Answers the where question about the verb in the sentence. So it's adverb phrase, indicating the place of the action, functioning as the place, the adverb of place. Next one, shouting loudly, the child ran towards the robber. Ing form of the verb in the start of the sentence, it can be either participle or gerund. It cannot be verb over here. So shouting loudly is either participle phrase or gerund phrase. We'll have to decide whether shouting is participle or gerund. If it is gerund, then it must be the subject of the sentence. What is the subject of this sentence? What's happening? Somebody is running. Ran towards the robber. Who ran? The child ran. So the child is the subject. Subject to child hai. Shouting is not the subject. What is shouting loudly telling us about? It's telling us about the child. It's modifying the child. So it's participle. That's why it's participle. Number 2, I've been dreaming about this for such a long time. Have been dreaming, only one option is possible. It's a combination of main verb and helping verb, so it's verb phrase. The streets of that city, prepositional phrase, but the option is not there, so we'll have to look for the function. What is before that? It's streets. Streets is a noun, and of that city is modifying streets, so it is adjective phrase. I'll give you a tip over here. All of phrases where there is a possession in of, they are adjective phrases modifying the preceding noun. The wheels of my car, the buttons of my shirt, of my shirt, of my car are noun phrases. Similarly, the streets of that city is adjective phrase modifying noun. So all of phrases placed in front of nouns indicating possession are adjective phrases modifying those nouns. Prepositional phrases in their structure and adjective phrases in their function. The current government started planting trees. Government started what? Government subject started verb. They started what? Planting. So planting is the object of started. And object of verb is a role of noun. And here we've got a verb, present participle form of a verb, functioning, behaving like a noun, functioning as the object of a verb. So it's gerund. And trees is the object of planting. So it's a combination of gerund plus its object. That's why it's gerund phrase. She took out a gun from her bag and shot her husband. This time, the option of adverb phrase is missing. And it's prepositional phrase. This time, the examiner has approached this phrase from compositional point of view. That strange woman lives in a car. Lives where? In a car. Adverb of place. It's prepositional phrase also. But the option of prepositional phrase is not given. So it's adverb phrase also because it's indicating the place of the action in the sentence. So that was all about phrases. We have had a good activity also, a long one this time. And there was some mismanagement with the slides. And I'm sorry, I'm already tired enough. You know, I'm recording this lesson in my car and it's so hot here. You can't imagine. I'm, completely drenched in my own sweat from head to toe. So couldn't re-record the slides. I'm sorry for the mismanagement with the slides. I hope it wasn't very problematic for you. So enough about phrases. I'll see you again. Thank you very much. Allah Hafiz.